In speaking to Peter in Luke 22 and verse 31, Jesus said, "Satan has asked for you, that he may sift you as wheat." Friends, these were very chilling words, especially to the Apostle Peter. For Peter understood that when grain is sifted, it is vigorously shaken and then it is thrown up into the air so that the wheat will separate from the chaff. And Jesus is telling Peter, this is what Satan wants to do to your life. He wants to shake you up vigorously, and then he wants to throw you out to see if your faith is going to remain. Peter knew that this was something that he was going to face. And more than likely, each and every one of us will face instances like this in our own Christian lives. But Peter had confidence. Peter knew that he was not going to fail. He said, "Lord, I'm ready to go with you, both to prison and to death," Luke 22 and verse 33. And the reality is, we always think that we're ready. We think that we're strong and we're prepared for anything that Satan may put in our path. But Jesus always knows the truth. And Jesus revealed to Peter that before the rooster would crow that day, that Peter would deny knowing him 3 times. Well, Peter was outraged. He could not imagine that this is something that he would succumb to. He refused to believe what was being said. And Peter said to Jesus, "If I have to die with you, then I will not deny you." Mark 14, verses 29 and 31. Friends, this is something that is unthinkable, and our outrage is one that is real. Dedicated Christians do not deny knowing who Jesus is. How is this something that could happen? Or maybe we think that this is something that would happen to somebody else or not to us. And yet, there are times when we have acted in the very same way that Peter did. We truly believed wholeheartedly that we would not give in, that we would not succumb to the temptations of Satan, only then to be proven wrong, only then to see ourselves give in to those temptations that were there. But the question is, what do we do in these types of situations? Well, Jesus provided words of hope. He said, "But I have prayed for you that your faith should not fail. And when you have returned to me, strengthen your brethren." Luke 22 and verse 32. Now, although Peter's denial of Jesus was a failure of faith, Jesus didn't want Peter's faith to completely fail. And while all sin is a failure of faith, a failure to fully trust in Jesus and His way, but the question that we have to ask is this: what's next? What do we do when we face these types of situations? When we have compromised our faith, when we've acted like someone who is faithless, what will we do then? Do we allow our faith to completely fail? Do we totally abandon the Lord and never look back? Or does our faith cause a return to me response? Jesus knew that Peter was going to deny him, but Jesus also knew that Peter's faith was strong enough that he would not quit. He knew that Peter's faith was such that it would produce a return to me response. And he told Peter, "Once you have overcome this, and you have returned to me, use this to strengthen your brethren." Friends, I don't believe that we talk about this enough. We talk a lot about a failure of faith that occurs in sinning, and so we avoid that failure by not sinning. But we don't say very much about the failure of faith when it fails to bring people back to Jesus when they do sin. And then when faith utterly fails, sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death, James 1 and verse 15. We need to learn and to teach others that Christians can return from sin to Jesus anywhere and at any time. It needs to be so ingrained in our thinking that returning to Jesus is our first thought when we see our sin. That Jesus desires our return to Him, no matter what we have done or for how long. This must be so foundational to our understanding of God that it will not be obscured by our time spent in worldliness. No matter what, we can come back. And we need to commit now, as unthinkable as failing may be, that we will return when this happens. Thank you for joining us for our program today. We pray that you will consider these things and have a blessed day.